On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC Podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. We are the official podcast of the Lot 1 Tailgate Party, which is at Lambeau Field every home game. This is episode 133, created January 14th, 2026, an anniversary. Super Bowl II was held on January 14th when the Packers beat the Raiders. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota and Neil on the East Coast. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, gentlemen. Tonight I'm drinking Old Elk 7-year wheated bourbon, and like the Packers season, it's gone.
I should be drinking the Hot Butcher Twilight to Starlight because it was a perfect description. I was at the game. I arrived at 5 p.m. at Soldier Field, and it was starlight as I was walking home. Unfortunately, we had that game occur, and so I think it's time for bad decisions, and I am having Bailey's and Dr. McGillicuddy's. It's slippery nipple time and shots time, boys.
All right, Neil's doing shots, and I enjoyed it so much on the last episode, I dipped back into my Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast Green Bay Chat. And just the audio is available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify by searching for Green Bay Chat. Well, our topic this week is just that, the wild card game in Chicago. After we get all of that out of the way, we'll take a look at our revised playoff predictions and potential coaching changes in Green Bay. But realistically, do you guys even really want to talk about this game?
John, you mentioned Super Bowl II. Couldn't we just talk about that instead?
We could do that. We could do anything else. We could close the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe and leave a comment. Or, Neil, we could treat it like an extension of Festivus. Are you ready for the airing of your grievances?
There weren't a lot of grievances early on in this game. It was a lovely day at Soldier Field. The place was packed, and everything seemed to be going the Packers' way at the beginning of the game. And it was that excitement that was building up, this dejection that was growing in Bears fans as the Packers moved down the field, and it was touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. There was no settling for field goals or anything. It was beautiful movement by the offense and stops that were made on the defense. And I think the only thing you'd say about that first half is they still moved the ball reasonably well at certain times, but they made the stops when they needed to make those stops. It was bend, but don't break. And sometimes we broke them as well.
Absolutely. And what also happened is the bounces were going our way. The fumbles, kind of the 50-50 kind of things, even the penalties that worked against us, we were able to overcome.
And ultimately, yeah, Neil, like you said, 3 touchdowns. The score is 21-3 at the end of the first half, but there is a reason they play 4 quarters of football. And I feel like a recurring theme through most of this season for this Green Bay Packers team has been, can they put together 4 quarters of football? Can they eliminate the mistakes? It looked like it was going to happen, and then all hell broke loose in the fourth quarter of this game.
I'd say it started to break loose in the third quarter, but
in the third
can
quarter
we still stay on some of the happy things? Because there were definitely happy things. I mean, it was a really joyous time at halftime. And well, when you have Jordan Love throwing for 139 yards and 3 touchdowns in that first half, that's beautiful. Our rushing game moved reasonably well at certain points. The ball was being spread around. John will love it. It was 3 different wide receivers with those touchdowns. And we held the Bears as well. The Bears in the first half were 1 of 4 on fourth downs. This seemed to be a particularly good omen for this game. And the fact that Caleb Williams was held to under 50% completion, only 78 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception at halftime. Under 80 yards and an interception. That was Caleb Williams' contribution in the first half. It's like the defense and offense were both doing all of the things that said, oh, yeah, this was the team that was really performing earlier in the season.
Absolutely. The Jeff sweep worked.
First play. It was gorgeous. It was the perfect start to that game.
So let's talk a little bit about the first drive. So after a 10-yard holding penalty on the kickoff, Packers went 9 plays, 85 yards. We had a great pass, 33 yards to Dobbs. We had consecutive runs from Josh Jacobs of 9 yards, 5 yards, and 5 yards. We were moving down the field, and it was a really good response to the field goal that the Bears kicked to start the game.
And the other thing is that Jordan Love was making huge plays on those third down. First drive, 3rd and 1, 33-yard conversion to Dobbs. The touchdown to Watson was on a 3rd and 2. And on the second drive as well, in which we also scored a touchdown, 3rd and 8, completion to Dobbs for 10. And then the touchdown to Reed was on a 3rd and 9. It was just like, we get to 3rd down and like Jordan Love is saying, I've got this. I'm going to take care of this team on 3rd down.
Yep. So then score the touchdown. Bears come back. The Packers got an interception on Caleb Williams, and they lost 27 net yards because of said interception. So that's when you kind of went, okay, what's going on here? No matter. Packers said, you know what? Doesn't matter where we're going to start. We're going to do a 10-play, 87-yard drive. We're going to incorporate long passes again. Jacobs running with 7 and 13 yards. And Love was even able to shake off the helmet-to-helmet hit from Booker, which was very concerning. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, God, is he going to be out of the game again?
Yeah, and they showed that hit in the stadium replay because it's like, well, it's a good defensive play. It's like, no, I saw exactly what that was. But then we continued, and the defense did well. And no doubt, our best drive of the game was after we're up 14-3. The Bears get the ball, and on 3rd down, Xavier McKinney knocks the ball out. And then on 4th down, Edgerrin Cooper tips the ball. It's like, I rewatched this game much against my better judgment. And one of the things I got about rewatching the game is, especially in the first half, we had a number of players on the defense that made really big plays. The number of passes that we had defense, the number of pressures that actually did something, the number of movements that actually caused Caleb Williams to become uncomfortable, that made Caleb Williams inaccurate. Because again, Caleb Williams was under 50% in the first half.
On the broadcast, Neil, they noted that the Packer defense was just flying around. No Micah Parsons, no problem. Our linebackers, our edge rushers, we were getting pressure. We were containing Caleb Williams as well. And our defense was also capping their running game. So they had nowhere else to turn. And then they decided to go for all these 4th downs, which ultimately bit them in the ass. So the Packers get the ball back on the Bear 32-yard line. So this is when things got a little weird because of how this drive went.
Well, this is when the game got concerning, and it was the warning sign at the time, right? So we get down to the 1-yard line after Watson's almost touchdown where he fumbled it, and thankfully we got lucky on that play. There were 3 huge plays where we got lucky on: the Watson fumble, the Kennard fumble, and the Josh Jacobs fumble on the kickoff return. And holy shit, this game could have gone very differently if we had not gotten lucky on those. And instead of talking about a collapse in the 4th quarter, we're talking about a game that was tight throughout, and who knows how it goes that way. But we got lucky there. I'll take whatever it is. But once we got the ball back after that great defensive stop, Josh Jacobs had one really good run. And then from that point, our running game basically completely disappeared. From that point of being up 14-3, we had 11 rushes for 8 yards for Josh Jacobs. And that was our only real rushing in the game. There's one run that's credited to Chris Brooks, but that was really a pass at the end of the first half. 11 rushes for 8 yards the rest of the game for Josh Jacobs. And you want to know why we struggled in that second half? It's all because of that.
Okay, Neil, so the Packers get a break. The ball doesn't go through the end zone. It's not a touchback. We're set up 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. We're just going to walk this in, right? No. The answer is no.
This was one of the frustrating parts of the game is, yes, we couldn't run the ball, but we seemed to be hell-bent on playing formations that didn't give us the best chance to run the ball. Overall, in the entire course of the game, we played 11 personnel, that is 3 wideouts, 74% of the plays. We played 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, only 9 plays. We played 6 offensive linemen on only 2 plays, and one of those was obviously not such a great play. It's as if we didn't have a plan for how we're going to have short yardage running, or, for example, in the second half, if we needed to just sort of grind the ball down, AKA Dorsey Levens in the 96 playoffs, we just didn't have a plan how we're going to grind the clock, grind the ball, move the ball forward such that the Bears were limited in their opportunities and we'd be able to put ourselves in a position to win the game. We had no plan for that. And that all came through in this drive that ended up with a touchdown.
It did. Incomplete, 0-yard run, 0-yard run, and a 1-yard TD pass.
Beautiful pass to Dobbs, to be fair. Again, another one of these really big plays of Jordan Love in the first half. And even earlier in the drive on that near touchdown run to Christian Watson, that was actually a 4th and 1 after Jacobs had failed on 3rd and run. So the inability to do anything on 3rd and short or 1st and goal, 2nd goal, whatever, it's been a problem all season. And that's a problem of planning.
Well, John, didn't we sign big-bodied free agent, and we're really hoping the offensive line was going to be able to open up and we would get these short yardage runs?
That's the thing that I just cannot understand what happened in this game. Like, what happened with halftime adjustments? What happened with the ground game in the second half? It's like all of these people forgot how to play football at the same time. It was just a bizarre event that happened. I just completely struggled to even try to figure it out.
Part of it is that the Bears did make adjustments. And one of the things you saw in the second half is the Bears sent a lot of players after Jordan Love on a lot of those plays. They were very aggressive with their defense. And it's as if we didn't do anything to counter that. But the other thing is that we actually did try to do something to counter it. Matt LaFleur decided to go, let's take what worked in the first half and just not do that in the second half. In the first half, we were under center more than we were in shotgun, 15-12. In the second half, we were under center 5 times and from shotgun 35 times. And this commitment to the run problem that Packers teams have had in playoff losses in the past, Josh Jacobs in the second half only rushed the ball 7 times as opposed to 31 passes for Jordan Love. When you've got a 3-score lead for much of that second half, it shouldn't be a 31-7 ratio. And that's what really gets you. It's as if there wasn't a plan for how to play from prosperity.
Let's talk a little bit about the asshats. And this is where the asshats begin to rear their ugly head. So the Packers get the lead 21-3. McAnus kicks it in the end zone. It's a touchback. So the Bears get it with good field position, no time off the clock. Now, they move the ball a little bit, but ultimately they turn it over on downs. But just imagine if we hadn't given up that yardage on that kickoff. When we get the ball back, we move 27 yards. We make the field goal. Bears call timeout. Everybody in the place knew it was going to happen. And then McAnus misses that 55-yarder. Now, at the time, I texted out, I hope this doesn't come back and bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
Jeff, it came back and bit us in the ass.
It was the beginning of the spiral at that moment.
Yeah, yes.
The death spiral began at that moment. You could feel the drain pulling. And right, it's like, what happens at halftime and why do they come out the way they did in the third quarter? This entire second half, there is seemingly a mistake on every offensive play that the Packers put forward. I know there's a number 18, Jeff, out there online, but
it's
that number is way higher than that. Way higher.
So the Packers are up 21-3 at halftime. It's unfortunate they missed that field goal. Neil, you're at the game. What is the feeling of the Packer fans and the Bear fans too? Packers get the ball.
It was fucking awesome. Okay. It was
Exactly.
fucking awesome. The Packers fans were happy. We were giddy. And the Bears fans were just completely dejected. To the Bears fans' credit, there weren't people leaving. But there certainly was a thought of, oh, God, this is terrible. This is the exact opposite of what was supposed to happen in this game. This game was supposed to be a glorious defeat of our biggest rivals, and they're kicking our fucking ass. They were dejected. And yet there weren't that many Packers fans. So it's not like we could connect with those Packer fans, but it was just sort of the glances here and there with other Packers fans. But even the Bears fans who were around us, they were basically, I wouldn't say congratulating us, but they were certainly sort of acknowledging how well the Packers had played in a friendly manner.
So the Packers get the ball back after halftime. We're up 21-3. We're looking for the dagger. We get this ball. We drive it down the field. We haven't punted. We've really been good on offense. Jordan Love has been great. Put the ball in his hands. Go up 28-3. Put the Bears out of their misery. Let's move on to the next round.
Yeah, except that didn't happen.
And it just gets worse, right? It goes from bad to worse in this second half. It's appalling.
It's appalling because it's like they had no idea. It's like they sort of did some plays that were trying to run the ball, but they didn't actually run that many times. But they had a number of plays that were like short passes. Like Our third down failure on that first drive of the second half was a short pass to Jacobs that, like, well, it's a 3rd and 12. I think you're going to need to go back to, I don't know, the things that worked the entire first half. Have Jordan Love chucking the ball downfield to the wide receivers. And that was the thing. Jordan Love was only 3 of 8 in that third quarter, and his completions were one to Watson, thankfully, one to Brooks, and then one to Darian Kennard. It was as if we were playing from behind and we needed desperation moves. The dagger move is not from your own 5-yard line and throwing it to your 6th offensive lineman and hoping that a Bears defense that is better at knocking the ball out than any other team in the NFL is not going to make us pay for giving the ball to a lineman and having him run with it deep in our own territory.
And they almost did. And you mentioned it earlier, Neil. It's great that there's 9 different receivers targeted, but when one of those is, your 6th lineman, it was almost like this team was trying to get too cute for their own good. I don't know if they were thinking putting shit on tape for the following week or what the case was. But as you said, Neil, stick with what is working and put the game away. They couldn't get off the field. They couldn't get on the field. They couldn't do anything.
But it's mainly because they changed their game plan, right? I mean, if it was working under center mostly, why change it to all shotgun at that point? Why do all of these things different? And yes, I understand the Bears made adjustments, but that's not why we were changing everything up. And that was so frustrating. It's like we had plays in rewatching the game. Some of these Jacobs runs, like the lead blocker is Reed or is Dobbs. It's like, no, we should have like big people being our lead blocker against their good defensive players. Playing with 3 wide receivers when you're trying to hold and ideally build a lead just doesn't make sense on every single play. And they were doing it on the vast majority of the plays.
And yet, we're still in the lead after all this bullshit.
Well, that's where it goes from bad to worse, right? You're up 21-6 at the start of the fourth quarter.
And 21-6 after a quarter that was really objectively bad. We had 1 first down.
Right.
We only had 29 yards of offense. The Bears were starting to get moving with 114 yards of offense, but they only scored 3 points. Our defense still was playing well. Our defense was still making plays.
Right. There's still an opportunity.
It's a 15-point lead at the start of the fourth quarter.
And there's still an opportunity to get one more score in there to make that lead even more comfortable.
One more score. We had 4 drives in the fourth quarter.
I know.
But that's the thing in the end, right? We had 7 drives in the second half and got 1 touchdown with a missed extra point from 7 drives in the second half.
Yep. Punt, 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 touchdown, missed field goal, end of game. But let's punch ourselves in the nuts here a couple more times. So Kennard gets the ball, big man rumbling down, ball gets punched out. Lucky bounce, goes out of bounds. Packers retain the ball. This is where things get even weirder. So Jordan Love has had 1 grounding penalty in his career. At the end of the third quarter, Love is called for grounding. We're forced to punt. So we've got the best punter in the league. Big kick. All right, we're going to pin him back. Oh, wait. A 37-yard punt return. Yeah. Now, this is not fatal. Packer defense still holds the Bears to a field goal. But here's the thing. It was a 7-play, 2-yard drive. That's not okay to still get points off of that.
Jeff, that wasn't even our first failure of the asshats in the second half because we downed a ball in the end zone after it landed in the landing strip to start the second half. So that whole first drive, it's like, oh, great, we're going to start out well. No, we start the ball at the 20 instead. Just like our first drive of the game where we scored a touchdown, but because of a holding penalty, we started on 15. It's like the asshats wanted to give us the highest degree of difficulty possible.
And they ultimately pretty much made it impossible. So we get the ball back. Okay, it's still a 2-score game. It's 21-9. Bears have 3 field goals. It's the fourth quarter. We need some momentum. So what happens? The Bears asshats show up. So we get the ball at our 40. Okay, great. So then we get a 0-yard run, an incomplete, and then a grounding call. Oh, the second grounding in as many drives and the third of Mr. Love's career in back-to-back possessions. I mean, come on. Really?
That grounding, though, is definitely due to Jordan Morgan deciding, I don't really need to block all of the guys that are there. And Jordan Morgan in particular, Rasheed Walker had a couple plays, and then Anthony Belton had a really bad game as far as missing blocks in the second half as well. So it was fairly brutal for our younger linemen in that game. And if your linemen aren't doing the job on offense, you're putting your quarterback behind the 8 ball.
After a 3-play minus 10-yard Packer drive, once again, All-Pro Daniel Whelan steps on the field. Big kick. Oh, a 22-yard punt return. So again, shorter field for the Bears. And this is where it went from, okay, maybe there's a chance to, oh, fuck.
It went from 21-9 to 21-16. It's 2 scores to 1 score. And in the stadium, when it went to that 21-16, the Bears fans obviously were ecstatic. And the Packers fans were absolutely, oh shit. I mean, I would say that there was a component of that even when it became 21-9. There was belief, that complete dejection that Bears fans at halftime, once the Bears scored in that second half, that helped. And getting it to under 2 touchdowns is where they really started to show their full belief. And as Packers fans, we were ahead, and still that was not a good feeling in the crowd because the Bears fans were feeling it. And it was a home crowd. The home crowd, no doubt, played a role as far as helping that Bears offense and that Bears defense.
And really, there's 10 minutes left in the game when Chicago gets this score. So as the saying goes, there's a lot of ball game left, but Green Bay gets the ball. And ultimately, we get to the point where this amazing play to Matthew Golden happens, and Green Bay does get that touchdown to increase the cushion.
The Matthew Golden touchdown was amazing. And it came right at me in our corner of the end zone. And just watching him get the ball, and then just like, it's like he had spin moves. It's like watching a player in a video game, just sort of spinning around, and all of the players are flying down on the ground, and nobody is able to touch him. Matthew Golden got by 4 players at the initial place where they're going to tackle him, and then 2 more players later. 6 Bears players ultimately missed as Matthew Golden goes 22 yards on a screenplay that looks like it's going to go like 5 yards and takes it in the end zone. It was like, holy fuck.
He was a man possessed here, Neil. This is a play that should have sparked some life into this team.
Well, it did on that drive, clearly.
So we experience Matthew Golden's first NFL touchdown.
Right.
Neil was coming right at you. It's something you're going to remember a long time. Extra point makes it a 2-touchdown lead. Mr. McAnus comes on the field. He misses the extra point, boys. He misses the extra point.
Jeff, that was obviously coming right at me too. And that was an entirely different feeling. And the Bears fans just went nuts because it's like, okay, it's an 11-point game, but it didn't feel in any way secure at that point, given what their offense had done and given what our offense had not done other than the drive that had just completed. It was just the weirdest feeling to be up 11 points, 6.5 minutes remaining, and somehow feel like you're losing the ball game at some level.
This drive in its entirety was bizarre. Our number 1 running back, Josh Jacobs, took the kickoff, ran it back 33 yards. Great. Fumbled it. Not great. Offense comes on the field. They get a holding penalty. The only holding penalty of the game on either team sets us back 10 yards. We overcame. We get the great touchdown. We get the missed extra point. It's like, can anything just be easy here?
Well, no, Jeff, and we know that it didn't get any easier either. And the Chicago Bears then with a 2-minute possession after that, they came out. And as I said, this Golden play should have lit a fire onto the team. But that defense that was already tired, was already looking like they were standing still, just gets worse on this drive as well.
And yet they still got it to a 4th and 3. Right? They had to convert a 4th and 3, and then the Bears decided to make that even worse for themselves. And so as Packers fans, it's a 4th and 8. And
4th and 8 after the penalty.
4th and 8 after the penalty.
Convert.
Yeah. It was just like, oh, like that would have been the ball game if either they hadn't had the false start and that ends up being a fumble on the 4th and 3, or we stopped on the 4th and 8. But unfortunately, Caleb Williams was able to find his receivers because there was lots of space out there for those receivers, A, and B, we were just not putting pressure on Caleb Williams.
And of course, Chicago, rightfully so, decides to go for 2 and converts.
We still have a lead, though, so it's not really a fatal problem, right? It's a 3-point lead, not a really lead that you're particularly comfortable with. It would rather be a 4-point lead. But nonetheless, we get the ball back, and there's only 4:13 left in the game at this point. So we get down, and if we can score a touchdown, we should be able to put the game out of reach, or at the very least, we should be able to kill a lot of clock and give ourselves a lead that is going to be appropriate. And
that's the question that I had. How did they not get a ground game going that could have or should have taken time off of the clock here? And you look at it and you're like, okay, and maybe they take the time off the clock, maybe they play conservative, go for the field goal. The field goal would only give them a 6-point lead, but it would put the game in a position where Chicago does have to go for the end zone at the end. But nonetheless, it just comes up so short. It's like, again, everything that could go wrong goes wrong in this drive.
John, do you know why we couldn't get a ground game going? This play right here was one of the examples. Jacobs got 0 yards in this play. We had 5 linemen going against 6 Bears player. We had trips on one side. We had Dobbs blocking on the other side. We were in a pure passing situation, and that's fine because I think that being able to throw the ball is good. But basically, if we were overmatched numerically, then they were going to stop us no matter what. And not just did we not have coverage on one of their linebackers, but in addition, Anthony Belton whiffed on his block. So Jacobs is stopped by 2 Bears players right at the line of scrimmage. And something similar happened a couple plays later where essentially we had a formation where we decided to run out of it. And we should have either changed the formation, changed the play, or alternatively gone with the passing play that was there in the first place. But again, at some level, you're trying to kill clock. You're trying to take away their opportunities to win the game because, again, we're still ahead at this point.
And this is in positive territory here. This is a play, on the other side of the 50-yard line. You look at that picture. I can't even tell what was supposed to happen on this play.
The good news is the play beforehand was a long pass to Dobbs. Jordan Love was still playing. We got through even this nonsense. We were down 1st and 10 at the Chicago 21. We're in field goal range at this point. So maybe let's, the proverbial keep your foot on the gas, whatever, let's not play for a field goal here. Let's try and score a touchdown. But this is where the timeouts and the time management clusterfuck started.
It started long before then, and we can talk about the full range of errors as far as play calling is concerned. But the most appalling thing on this drive is we have the next Jacobs run of 0 yards. We have an incompletion, and after an incompletion, we call a timeout. And then after that timeout, we have a delay of game. A, there shouldn't be a timeout after an incompletion, and B, there certainly shouldn't be a delay of game after a timeout. And it was just appalling from a clock management perspective. And that extra 5 yards is what pushed us back, such that when we failed on 3rd down, it became a 44-yard field goal, which should be okay, but
Brandon McAnus says, I'm going to push all my chips in, and I'm going to push this sucker off to the right. I'm going to miss this one, too.
Again, another one that was right at me, and Bears fans were going nuts. I was very jealous for them, despite being obviously completely dejected on my own. It was an incredible atmosphere if you were a Bears fan, but unfortunately I wasn't there as a Bears fan.
Neil, is there any windage going on? Is there any way you can use the weather as an excuse for any of these kicks?
Well, it wasn't a problem for Cairo Santos, so
right.
There was wind, but it's sort of like being in the bowl at Lambeau, that the wind is certainly diminished by the presence of all of the stands around. Now, there was actually a gap coming in right. So I was in the sort of where this picture is, I was a little bit left of it and a little bit back. And there was a gap that the wind could seep through there. But I mean, the ball was moving. There's no question that there was a wind effect going on. It was probably a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind, but I don't care. You've got to make it. And I'm going to go back to the other issue that we shouldn't have had a 44-yard field goal at that point after we had 1st down at their 21-yard line, and just keep moving it. Even if you're going to be conservative, well, be successful and conservative. I mean, that was the worst case scenario that we had, is that we ran for nothing, pissed away a timeout, and then had 2 incompletions after that. So we neither were conservative nor were successful at it. And I mean, I understand why you're going for getting the touchdown and having Jordan Love throw, but then the question is, well, why are you doing these useless runs in the first place? And I mean, the delay of game was the killer. I mean, it's just like, why? That was unnecessary. And you can see the ball was not that far away. If that's 5 yards closer, that might go in.
But we still have a lead. We're up 27-24, 3 minutes-ish left in the game, but now we turn the ball over to the Bears. All we have to do is hold them.
They don't even hold for 70 seconds, Jeff. It's a minute and 10 seconds later, and Chicago is in the end zone.
And this is where the fatigue or lack of effort on the defense was. The single first play of that drive is the one that you may have seen where we flushed out Caleb Williams to the right, and KGB is chasing after him, and Rashawn Gary just decides, nah, KGB's got him. I'm just going to sort of stand here and slowly jog towards the sidelines. If Gary had pursued in a Micah Parsons-like way, that's a sack of Caleb Williams on the first play of that drive. That could have made all of the difference, and we needed something that was going to push them back, and Rashawn Gary failed in that specific play, among other times in this game.
There were business decisions made by some of our defenders in this game.
Too often.
And that's not okay. Are they tired? Do they not want to win? Is this a locker room thing?
I think one of the problems was Carrington Valentine was just terrible. He was burned continuously throughout that game, and he did play 75 snaps. And when it comes to decisions that were made, this is one that I really have an issue with because Carrington Valentine is a replacement level player. Sometimes you need to put in players that are capable of making big plays. Trayvon Diggs had one play in that entire game.
What's up with that?
And why even spend $500,000 on him to play in the Vikings game if you're not going to play him in this game? And the one play he played, he basically did run support, and I thought he played okay on it. And, it was not like he failed in some critical coverage, whereas Carrington Valentine was failing in critical coverage time and time again, A, and B, we had a lot of situations in which we had their wide receivers being covered by our linebackers, and that's a mismatch. And this is a case where maybe, Caleb Williams is burning us. Maybe we need to go to a dime package and have 6 D-backs and do something that is going to allow us to do something different, that is going to be able to control their passing game, because it was clearly not by rushing the passer. Even though Jeff Hafley did send 5 on a number of plays in the second half, that wasn't working. So while if you're not able to create pressure, then at least have players in who are going to be able to do the coverage. And the number of times that we got burned by their wide receivers one-on-one against our linebackers also is a factor in that second half.
Diggs played 1 snap. Even if he's terrible, he couldn't have been any worse in some of these. The picture here, receivers got almost 10 yards of open space. It's just not even close. Is this zone? Is this man-to-man? It's neither, apparently.
Carrington Valentine got burned by the play call and got caught peeking into the backfield on that one, but I don't care. I mean, I've said this many times over the last couple of years that when your defense is playing 75 plus plays a game, they're going to get tired. If you've got other players that can perform even close to that level, you should be rotating them in. And in the case of Keyshawn Nixon, not only playing all the defensive snaps, but also playing these special team snaps. And I'm sorry, but Keyshawn Nixon is not as good as he thinks he is, A. And B, you have a player doing 80 plus snaps in a game, more or less at full speed when they are throwing the ball as much as they are. And when Caleb Williams is dropping back 50 times in a game, that is going to put enormous pressure on the legs of those D-backs who are supposed to be covering the very good wide receiving core of the Chicago Bears. And I just don't understand why you're not rotating players in, even ignoring if it were Trayvon Diggs, though I think especially because it's Trayvon Diggs, because we needed those special plays in the second half and they just weren't coming.
Neil, don't forget the injury to Edgerrin Cooper. I think things really go off the rails here as far as how many yards the Bears are able to pick up after Cooper comes out of the game. And I think they were ready to call you in to play linebacker. That's how many injuries that there were going on in this game.
John, that looks really good on paper because it was convenient that Edgerrin Cooper went out at that time. And Edgerrin Cooper obviously had an amazing game. He was flying around. He was so much fun to watch. I was really glad I was wearing the Edgerrin Cooper jersey to the game. But that ignores the fact that we've had these collapses with or without Cooper in the fourth quarter in games throughout this season. And Cooper certainly could have helped in those situations, but I don't think Cooper was a panacea that was going to solve all of those problems, because this was something that was inherent to the way our defense has collapsed at the end of games in this season.
Let me give you guys a stat. The Packers gave up 422 points over the course of the season, including this Bears game. 167 of those 422 points were surrendered in the fourth quarter or overtime. That's about 40%.
And even worse, if you look at the Packers-Bears game, the Packers allowed 6 points to the Bears in the first half, 68 in the second half and overtime of those games. Essentially, every game, either they figured something out at halftime on us, we got tired in the second half, especially late in the fourth quarter, or both. And we know that the Bears can do this. They certainly have a track record of doing this against other teams as well, but we had also failed against non-Bears teams late in the game. And there had to be some sort of plan that was going to prevent this type of collapse due to fatigue at the end of the game.
So the Bears score. They go up 31-27. But there's still a minute 43 left in the game, and we have Jordan Love.
One of the things that we did on this game-winning drive potential, though, is we still made some plays that were head scratchers. And just the first pass, 3 yards to Jacobs, we ended up losing 25 seconds on that play that didn't gain us very many yards. And we had an incompletion that could have cost us even more time. But the big thing, though, is we made some big plays. We had a big drop by Jaden Reed that could have had us down at the Bears 20-yard line, out of bounds with 50 seconds left. If Jaden Reed doesn't drop that ball, that makes a difference. I'm not putting that on him because the biggest issue that we had is clock management. And when Sean Ryan went down injured and we had to take a 10-second runoff that ended up being a 14-second runoff, that basically put us into pure desperation mode when, based on field position, we shouldn't have been in desperation mode. We should have had plenty of time to work through multiple plays, and we couldn't because Matt LaFleur just loves pissing away timeouts.
We're still not done with our penalties either. Rasheed Walker gets a false start. On top of everything else that's going on, false start penalty, so we back up 5.
And then it's just basically 2 plays after that. But that's the thing, is that there were failures for multiple players on that final drive. On the pass to Watson that he was near the end zone and had his hands on the ball where Jordan Love was rushed. That was another one of those plays where Anthony Belton basically whiffed on his block and allowed the Bears defender in. And man, there was enough space there that if Love can throw that properly, I think we had a touchdown. We may be having a completely different discussion today.
That's the thing about this whole game. The great things that happened in the first half, all these squandered opportunities. One of my big takeaways positively in this game is Jordan Love. This could have really been his game. 323 yards, 4 touchdowns. His QBR was 80.3. I mean, he was damn near perfect in this game, at least how he managed the game. He threw his receivers open. There were some really untimely drops. I mean, my goodness, what would a Tucker Kraft have done for this team in this situation? But you know what? Love still played really well. He was fighting to the end. He was getting emotional towards the end, which I think was good to see. He really showed that he is going to really, I think, be able to carry this team.
And just to underline what Jeff said, on that final Packers drive, Jordan Love converted on a 4th and 7 with a golden reception out of bounds and on a 3rd and 3 from midfield. And this is what you need your quarterback to be able to do. And Jordan Love was extremely consistent throughout this game. In that fourth quarter, 160 passing yards with a touchdown. It just didn't seem like we were that dominant in the fourth quarter because the Bears were doing even more. And that's really emphasized by the fact that our defense allowed Caleb Williams in the second half to have 283 passing yards, including 184 in the fourth quarter. 283 passing yards in the second half for those Bears. It's very tough to think that you're going to be able to hold a lead when you are basically allowing a quarterback over a full game's worth of passing yards in the second half.
And even going back to the Love numbers, you can look at them in at many different angles, and they are great numbers. Jordan Love had a terrific game, but as I say all the time, there's only one statistic that matters, and it is the points on the board. And Green Bay fails to maintain the lead. They fail to put the points on the board. We're out roughly 7 points from our kicker. The final score of 31-27.
Sorry, John, how many points did we have in that game?
We had 27 points, Neil.
John, I thought that was good. I thought that was good enough for us to win this year.
It should have been good. And Neil, how is it walking out of the stadium then? Because you said how great halftime was. Right, there's boos raining down from the fans at Soldier Field. The Bears fans are really feeling it. And now the tables have turned on you in the second half. What's it like walking out?
Let me start by saying that I was very impressed with the atmosphere at Soldier Field and how non-Philly like it was. So we went around the tailgating area, which is just a concrete parking deck just south of Soldier Field. There were lots of really good tailgates. They put on a good tailgate. We got some random heckling, but we also had some really good conversations with Bears fans. It was a fun atmosphere that made it feel like you were at a Midwest football game. It wasn't quite the same as being in Lot 1, but it was closer to that than most football stadiums that you're going to be at, certainly for teams in your own conference. It was the decided opposite of experiences that I've had in Philadelphia. And, we got into the stadium an hour and a half beforehand. We walked around. Again, there's the random fuck Green Bay and Green Bay sucks. We'd have those shouted at us, but there was almost a glint in their eye as I was doing it. I mean, there was just a absence of nastiness in general. A few people, but nothing that was in anything weird. It was so friendly compared to being in Philadelphia. Halftime, same thing. You go to the bathroom. That's always the concern that you have when you're going to a visiting stadium is what sort of shit are you going to get when you go to the bathroom? And it was just, there were no incidents at all in the bathroom as far as people just sort of being, crossing the line from rivaldom fans to nastiness. And where we were actually in a really terrible space for visiting fans to be because we're way at the back of a section. There was no security anywhere near us. Fans could have been absolutely nasty to us during the game, and they were friendly and talking to us throughout the entire game. And then that entirely changed after the game was done and the Bears won. And this is something that I am going to put on a Ben Johnson type of attitude that, fuck Green Bay and all of that, because the post-game experience that we had in Chicago was more miserable than I've experienced almost any time that I've been in Philadelphia. The fans were just complete and utter assholes. Leaving the stadium was one thing. From the stadium, we had to walk about 3 miles north. It was a lovely, aesthetically pleasing walk along the lakefront and then through Grant Park and through downtown, but just constantly being berated by those opposing fans in a not friendly way. It's not like, hey, we beat you. It's like, what I determined is that the Bears fans, at least this year, are very sore winners. And it continued when we're on the streets of Chicago. You'd have cars driving by and you'd have several people put their heads out the window and say, fuck you, the Packers suck, you suck, and you're all terrible people. It was just nasty. I mean, it was worse than that. I'm actually being kinder than what was being yelled at us. And I don't understand exactly what is going to cause you to be mean to opposing fans when you should be ecstatic and happy about your victory. And I took away a very negative view about the Bears fans after a victory. And it may be something that's very specific to playing the Packers, to winning their first playoff game in 15 years. But it was a turn that I was not expecting after how pleasant it was pre-game and during the game.
So, Neil, you were able to wash some of this away, though. You found an oasis after the game, though. Tell us about that a little bit and little camaraderie maybe with that.
Well, again, we had a 3-mile walk, so there was a little bit of that, but we didn't talk a whole lot on the walk back. And we went to an Irish pub at first that was perfectly fine. It was in the North Shore region, so, a wealthier region. But there was a bar afterwards that we went to that was the main Packers bar in downtown Chicago. This is a bar that is known for, on game days, not allowing any visiting fans in. And so I went to this game with my brother and my cousin. My brother had previously gone to that bar, O'Leary's, and it was a normal regular season Packers game day. And there was a guy with Packers shirt and his wife was wearing a Niners shirt. And the bouncer said, no, she's not allowed in here at all. It doesn't matter. Unless you're wearing Packers gear, you're not inside. So by the time we got to this bar, this was 4 hours after the game. You look inside the bar and it's maybe 20% filled. It was emptying out for sure. And we're approaching the bar. It's known for having late bar times. It's approaching 2 a.m. at this point, and there's a group of 6 younger women who are trying to get in. And the bouncer says, nope, sorry, this is a private party. We're all closed. And then you get these 3 middle-aged gentlemen walk up. We flashed a little bit of Packers gears and says, okay, go on inside. And so it was good being in that space where it was a Packers safe zone. I hate that phrase, but it was a Packers safe zone. They had the Packers Bears game on the TV, and we could essentially just sort of go through all of the problems with the game, talk about all of the issues with the team, where we're going next year. It was just sort of the standard thing that everyone was doing after the game, but it was very cathartic to be talking in this Packers safe space after the game.
And not much else we can do about it, Neil, no matter how good or bad or indifferent the postgame was, the Green Bay Packers have lost. Looking at the grand scheme of things, we made some playoff predictions. And with our guest, Charles and the two of you got exactly 3 of the 6 games correct last weekend. I did one step ahead of you. I got 4 correct. I nailed all of the AFC games, but we didn't do too well in the NFC. So we each picked the Rams. We got that. Eagles and Packers let us down immensely. So that changes things in the NFC. But let's look at the AFC first. And this is where it's even more interesting. In both the AFC and the NFC, you have the 6 seed traveling to the 1 seed and the 5 seed traveling to the 2 seed. So there's a lot of parallels here. But on Saturday, the Buffalo Bills, and we like Buffalo Bills travel to Denver. Either of you changing your outlook on the Bills or the Broncos?
I wish the game were in Buffalo, but no, I think the Broncos have the advantage. And especially with the problems that Buffalo has with their wide receiver core, I think that Denver's defense is going to feast on them, add the altitude in as well.
I'm sticking with my Bills pick. The winner of this game will be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I like Buffalo there as well.
I agree with both of you that I think this winner is the Super Bowl representative.
And the other AFC matchup then on Sunday, Houston, big win in Pittsburgh. Houston is heading to New England. And before we even ask you where you're going with this one, both of you really liked Pittsburgh coming out of last week and going into next weekend. So you really have to reassess this game, Houston at New England.
What I reassessed is that Houston's defense is even better than I thought it was. And I think Houston takes care of New England because Drake May impressed me a lot less than you would expect for somebody who is getting a lot of MVP talk.
Well, yes, it was Drake May's first game. I think maybe he will bounce back from that. He had maybe the jitters. I'm going to go with the Patriots at home against the Texans. There could be weather in this one as well. It could be cold. Texans, again, indoor team. Although the Texans defense was impressive.
Yeah, I really liked Houston's defense all season long and going into this. And I'm sticking with my original prediction is to have Houston win there and Buffalo at Houston for the AFC Championship game the following weekend. So let's take a look at the NFC. And it is not the Green Bay Packers traveling to Seattle on Saturday night, but rather the San Francisco 49ers. So an AFC West matchup in Seattle on Saturday night.
The big thing is that San Francisco showed that injuries are not an excuse. You can win football games despite having a number of superstars who are out for the season. But despite that, I think that the Eagles had problems all season. I think Seattle's defense is too good. I'm choosing Seattle.
Seattle got a week off. 49ers lost Kittle, lost some other players to injury. I think the Seahawks at home are gonna be too tough. And I think the winner of this game is going to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Green Bay suffered a lot of injuries, and San Francisco's depth a little bit better than what Green Bay's is, and that's why they came out ahead on the Eagles there. Now, looking at what we had originally said, both of you liked Green Bay in this game, and this was a game where I said Green Bay's injuries were going to catch up to them. This is a big matchup, and I think San Francisco's injuries probably will catch up to them as well. I'm going to stick with Seattle here as well as heading off to the NFC Championship game, which brings us to the final game of the weekend. The Rams at the Bears. I'll remind you both, you really like the Rams coming into this game regardless. Are you still sticking with the Rams?
When we talked before recording, I was quite confident that the 10-degree weather in Chicago was going to be the downfall of Matthew Stafford. I've rethought that since then because I just think that the Bears defense allowed so much to the Packers, and Matthew Stafford, even despite all of his long history in cold weather being problematic, his fundamental ability as a quarterback is going to cause him to be able to get through that Bears defense. I think there's going to be just enough on the Rams defense that's also going to be able to take care of Caleb Williams. So I am choosing the Rams despite the cold temperature in Chicago.
Well, I'm kind of hoping for meteor on this one. I think it's going to be whatever defense plays better. And the Rams have a better defense than the Bears. The Bears have been giving up truckloads of points the back half of the season here. The Rams will be able to run and pass enough to generate offense. And I think the Rams defense is really going to expose Caleb Williams here. I'm really torn on this one because I've been going back and forth. I would like to see the Rams win. I think the weather might be too much, though, for the Rams offense to overcome. There's got to be a winner here, I guess. So
you can't have a tie in the postseason.
No, you can't. So Bears.
All right. I originally had the Eagles beating the Rams in this game, and I just cannot bring myself to pick the Chicago Bears to win this. So, yes, I would like to see the Rams come out victorious. Neil, I think the Bears fans would just be even more insufferable if they get to the NFC Championship game, wouldn't they?
Absolutely.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. All right, so we'll take a look at next week. We'll take a look at those picks and see where things are going to wrap up when we get to the championship games. And as for anything else right now, no news is good news, so to speak. We know that there are some expectations of coaching changes within Green Bay. The big one, Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator, has 5 head coaching interviews this week. Nashville and Miami have been completed. He's also heading off to Arizona and Las Vegas, and I've already forgotten the 5th one. It's a pretty good chance he's going to get hired. That means what's Green Bay doing now? Are they ready to promote someone from within here, or do they have to look outside to get a defensive coordinator?
You really want me to go into this, huh?
Yes.
The biggest problem with the Packers game is something that we've touched on, but we have not gone into enough detail on, and that was the failures of coaching in this game. There were failures of coaching on offense as far as play calling and scheme. There were failures on some of the things that we did on defense, although there's certainly a talent component of that as well. But rotating the players is a coaching question. And then certainly there was an issue for special teams. For special teams, I've got 8 major errors by the assets, and advanced statistics note that the Packers lost 26.6% in win probability due to punts, field goal attempts, and extra point attempts. They lost 7 points clearly. They also could have kicked a field goal on that last drive if they had just made the extra point earlier. The special teams overall in that game had negative 9.9 expected points added. That is, the advanced statistics say the Packers lost 10 points because of special teams. Matt LaFleur looks like he's going to be retained, and I think that that's probably the best decision given all of the things that are going on in the coaching world, and it's certainly different than I and a lot of other people thought immediately after the game. But Matt LaFleur has got to look carefully at what he's doing with his coaches. I think there is no question in my mind that Rich Bisaccia has to go, but there's also a question about other people. And we look at the collapses we've had in the season, and there's got to be some opportunity for Matt LaFleur to have that self-reflection to explain why the Packers did things this year in collapses that were literally completely unprecedented. The Packers are the first team since the 1970 merger to lose 3 games where they were ahead by 10 or more points with 5 or fewer minutes remaining. The Packers prior to this were 306-1 in those games. They were 6-3 this season in those games. There also needs to be an assessment about the importance of games in the regular season, and the playoffs resting is something that I think we certainly saw why it could be useful against the Bears, but going into the playoffs with a 4-game losing streak now has an even worse record. And there needs to be something from a mental standpoint that you just don't accept losing. We've got Vince Lombardi on here. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. And Vince would never have rested those starters against Minnesota in that situation. The other thing is you can't lose those games during the regular season because 7 seeds are now 1-11 in the wild card round. You take that 1 win they lost in the next round, 1-12 overall in the playoffs. That is a 0.083 winning percentage. That is worse than the Jets, Raiders, and Titans. A 7 seed is not where you want to be. Matt LaFleur also is now 3-6 in the playoffs. That puts him in the ballpark of Marty Schottenheimer for playoff winning percentage for coaches with 8 or more. There needs to be a lot of reflection on this coaching staff. And it's not just Matt LaFleur. And part of the thing that we've been talking about all season is that Matt LaFleur has, on offense in particular, been so overwhelmed by the combination of doing his head coaching job and doing the offensive play calling. And the reason is because Adam Stenavich essentially is not qualified to be a play caller. That's reflected in timeouts. By my count, 5 of the 6 timeouts in this game were fundamentally wasted timeouts that we easily could see how they could have been used to move us closer to either field goal or a touchdown in either the first or the second half. And getting to the issue of the importance of the assistant coaches, right? Matt LaFleur famously says, I don't talk to kickers. Well, guess what? The kickers cost us 5 games in the season. Matt LaFleur needs to take more of a role as far as delegation for the individual roles within his team and have a bigger picture for the overall role of the team. And so the coaches that we are talking about most importantly are obviously Rich Bisaccia, the most highly paid assistant coach. But you look at Adam Stenavich, somebody that we've talked about before. Adam Stenavich never coached anything other than offensive line before he was promoted to offensive coordinator and was promoted from offensive line with the Packers. Luke Butkus was an offensive line assistant first time in 2007 with the Bears, still an offensive line assistant through the 21 Packers, and then promoted to the full offensive line coach. And in between had some time in Illinois and other colleges as an offensive line coach. But it's clear that we're not doing things as far as our offensive line. And the promotion of Luke Butkus from within is a problem. We've got other coaches like Jason Vrabel or Ryan Mahaffey that we've got this same situation. But the most damning element was an analysis of coaches in the playoffs this year and where they came from. And fundamentally, they looked at this 2 ways. They looked at coordinator level and whether they were promoted within or whether they came from other teams. And so they counted the total number of years of experience on other teams versus in-house at these roles. And the Seahawks led the NFL with 129 years of external experience versus the Packers in 14th place with 47. 13th was with only 59. 12th was 78. So we have far less experience on other teams with our coordinators. And that also shows through at our assistant coaches level. So looking at the assistant coaches by the same metric, Packers, 21 years only of external experience at that level. Seahawks leading with 119 years of experience. We have less than half the number of years of experience as even the 13th place Steelers. The average team had 78 years of experience elsewhere, Packers only at 21. So we need fresh ideas. We need to have coordinators who are going to be able to lead everything on their own, that are going to be able to provide new ideas. And I don't have faith that somebody who's been an offensive line coach all the time until he was an offensive coordinator has that same level of ideas as somebody who's coming from the outside. So, long-winded way to answer your question, John. Jeff Hafley leaves, we've got to be looking outside. And I think we've got to take this opportunity as a matter of, we've got this disappointment from these playoffs and look internally and say, well, what are some of the things that we need to do differently? We need new ideas. We can't just promote from within, but we can't just keep the coaches who are there currently. We need to be thinking about how are we going to be doing things differently as an organization such that we're going to have enough resilience and enough toughness, enough all of these other intangibles such that next year when we get to the playoffs, first of all, it's not going to be with the 7 seed. And second of all, that they're going to be able to overcome challenges as they inevitably come along in a football game.
Neil, I think another component of this is just the players we currently have and their desire to excel. Business decision by Keyshawn Nixon to not even to try to tackle. The jogging by Rashawn Gary. Some of these players carry pretty big salary caps for next year. Hopefully, with new coaching, there will also be a new eye, or at least a more critical eye, on some of these players. Now, there's going to be some cap casualties anyway, but most of us would be shocked if Rashawn Gary was playing in a Green Bay Packer uniform next year. But that's what I'm also looking for. The Micah Parsons are talking, the Tucker Crafts, they were gutted by this. Other players weren't quite as upset about the loss, shall we say.
Keyshawn Nixon thought he was the best cornerback that he could have been this year. That lack of self-reflection is a real problem.
There is one lower level, we'll say, position coach on the Packers squad, and that is the defensive line coach, run game coordinator, DeMarcus Covington. He has already been requested to interview for the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator position. And this is, again, a situation where I think they have to plan for Jeff Hafley's departure. And to Neil's point, is there anyone from the inside to promote from within? This is about the only coach, right? Because last season he was the New England Patriots defensive coordinator. Mike Vrabel just chose not to keep him on board. Now, the Patriots were 4-13 last season with Covington as the defensive coordinator. So how highly regarded he is, I don't know, but he is someone who does have that experience that can move up there. I agree with you, Neil. Bisaccia has to go. We hearken back to our GBC theater when we talked about getting rid of people. Bisaccia, we need to come for him next. We know we have to fill in Hafley's spot. And yeah, something has to happen on the offensive coordinator side or someone to just help LaFleur better. You talk about the timeout calls. It's also whoever is in his ear for that red flag for instant replays. Whoever that guy is, he needs to be fired as well. Some of those decisions on when to go for the replays have just been awful over the years. So it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks how things start to shake up internally. Don't forget, we've already lost another front office person in John Eric Sullivan, who's going to Miami, which could mean with Miami looking at Jeff Hafley, if those two are close, Hafley could have the foot in the door in Miami already. We don't know. So we'll wait and see how things shake up.
And John, I think you've brought up the key point, which is that you need to think in terms of coaching trees. And when you look at the coaches the Packers have, Hafley is obviously somebody who is going to be a head coach. Who else on that staff is going to be in the talk for positions elsewhere? You want to have your defensive line coaches. You want to have your running backs coaches, wide receivers coaches to be considered innovative enough such that they're going to be considered for coordinators elsewhere. You want to have to compete against other teams for jobs on your staff. And that means hiring people that everyone is going to be interested in. And I just go back to the early Mike Holmgren staff and all of those who became head coaches. You need to assemble talent in order to perform at the highest level.
But you also have to look at who's available out there. And if you are looking to fill in that defensive coordinator position, Mike Tomlin is now available. Mike Tomlin is a good defensive coach. And if you're worried about your special teams coordinator position and you want someone with good head coaching experience, John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator for many years as well before moving into defensive coaching and head coaching as well. Is that a pipe dream on both of those guys? Yes. Probably, because they're going to be in the conversation for head coaches as well. And that's the thing. I think from a fan's perspective, people get too caught up in the names that they know. And when you get to this point, it's always that progression. The next head coach is going to be someone who is a coordinator, which means the next coordinators are going to be someone who was a position coach. Those are the personnel you have to look at for who's going to move up. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of unfamiliar names. And anytime you start grabbing the familiar names, it's a pipe dream. It's playing a video game is all it is. And with that, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe, leave a comment, find the GBC Podcast at Green Bay Chat, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Blue Sky, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And on Facebook, it's the GBC Podcast - Green Bay Chat. Please follow us on any and all of those social media platforms, and may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.